Welcome to Design to Move, a weekly functional movement series reviewing common movement impairment syndromes, muscle imbalances, and injury cycles and how to correct for them. Don't just exercise, but restore optimal movement.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Design to Move. My name is Ryan Maxwell. This is Ryan Parr. We're two movement specialists here at Fluid Health and Fitness. And today we're going to talk to you about another movement distortion called asymmetrical weight shift or pelvic obliquity. This basically has to do with uneven hips, whether they tilt laterally or rotate more than they should. And usually this has to do with overactive muscles on one side of the body that complement another set of overactive muscles on the opposite hemisphere. And normally that occurs because we like to use one side over the other. Okay, so that creates those asymmetries, and unfortunately that can lead to extra torque or rotation around the pelvis, sacrum, spine, upper spine, trunk, etc. So we'll show you today how to use a handful of stretching protocols to rebalance the hips, use some strength exercises to ensure that they don't go back to that other position, and then reinforce it with some integrated movement that teaches your brain how to sustain the position for the long haul. If you have any questions on today's topic, feel free to reach out to us at admin@fluidhealthandfitness.com. Otherwise, we do welcome you to reach out for a virtual assessment so we can give you a biomechanical screen, show you where your distortion patterns are happening. So again, reach out to us at admin@fluidhealthandfitness for that. And we have a blog on the topic in the description below where we go into more detail. You can read more about that there. And as you notice, we do have a table of contents here to the side. This gives you timestamps of all the segments that we're going to go through today with a condensed version of the entire video at the bottom once you get familiar with this and you just need a reminder. On that note, let's get right into our topic, and we'll start off with stretching. So our first segment is on mobility and release. Here's how we're going to show you how to lengthen and extend the muscles that are typically overactive or tight in the body. Today we're going to target the adductors of your dominant leg and the abductors of your non-dominant, the ones that rotate the femur in and the ones that rotate the femur out. That's your mobility. Let's get started. The first stretch that we're going to get into is the groin muscles. These are the muscles that pull the leg internally into the middle of the body and internally rotate the femur. So they adduct the leg and they internally rotate it. Now when those are contracted, the muscles attach from the femur to the pubic bone and they have a tendency to pull the pelvis inward on the opposite hemisphere. And when that goes on, it has a tendency to hike the hip on the same hemisphere and drop the hip on the opposite. Now what that does, once again, is create too much rotation into the spine and can lead to issues with bulging discs, herniations, and again, convexity or even functional scoliosis with the spine. So what we want to do is reduce the pressure of these groin muscles by going into a static stretch. This is going to be a PNF stretch or a neuromuscular stretch. And he's going to do that, Ryan's going to show you how to do that from a kneeling position with his leg abducted out to the side. So a couple things to think about is supporting the torso so that the spinal column and the pelvis doesn't rotate too excessively. We want to know that the leg can come out away from the body without too much rotation externally on the opposite hemisphere, okay, or externally on the same hemisphere, internally on the opposite hemisphere. Ryan's also going to make sure that he keeps his knee nice and locked so that it doesn't buckle. This puts him into a position where the femur wants to rotate in and the tibia will maybe want to rotate out, and that can create a lot of lateral pressure on that kneecap, so we want to protect that. So as Ryan goes into the stretch, he can lean forward over his palms, bringing his pelvis forward, ascending his pelvis, and he can get a deeper stretch on the front or short adductor fibers or groin fibers. And then as he sits back into his heel, he can start to get into the back fibers. Now what we can do to help with the elongation of the stretch or the extension of the muscle is push down into the ground, flexing the groin muscles like you're trying to bring your leg into the middle of your body. Hold it there for about 3 to 5 seconds, then relax it, and then see if you can extend the leg out further or abduct the leg out further away from the middle of the body. You can do that for about 6 to 10 cycles where you push down. I like to breathe out to pull the pelvis under, give it a nice stable anchor point to flex that muscle from, and then breathe in, sink forward, and then push the leg out and away. Now remember, the orientation of the pelvis in relationship to that femur is going to dictate what sets of muscles you're going to stretch. Oftentimes the tight side has tighter short fibers, and again, not so tight back fibers or long fibers. So either way, we want to know that we can get the leg away from the body into abduction about 40 degrees or 30 degrees without any additional rotation of the pelvis. So use that as your landmark to determine what side, or in